Asifikanga sigalekile masinamukele kusiqendu sethu sale veki of Mzansi's fast-growing consumer rights show, Yilungelo Lakho, It's Your Right. My name is Sipiwo Nzawundi. Remember, you can also take part in our discussion today in studio by calling us in our number 011 714 6918 or 6919. Alternatively, you can send us an SMS to 33726. You can also send us your email to consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on our social media platforms, that is Facebook and Twitter at Yilungelo Lakho. South Africa, good afternoon. Now, insurance cover is an essential part of our lives. None of us know what tomorrow holds for us. In order to safeguard our future, we resort to an insurance policy against this or other disasters. Many of us, though, are too hasty to put pen to paper. The question we're asking today is, do we read the fine print before signing the paper? Before we tackle our issue today on insurance covers, let's quickly have a look at this background insert we have for you.
Isichotho esashiya umonakalo omkhulu kulonyaka ophelileyo sisesikhumbuzo namhlanje kubathengi beli ngokubaleka kwe-insurance. Sashiya abantu abaninzi bonakalelwe kakhulu. Sithe sisajongeleyo kwathi gqi inyikima nayo yashiyelayo ibali lomonakalo. Konakala izindlu kwalahleka nomphefumlo. Izikhukhula kunye nemililo eshiya umonakalo zizinto eziqhelekileyo. Ulahlekelwa zizinto ezexabiso ezifana nefoni, ikhompyutha kunye nobunye ubumbejembeje bala maxesha kwenza ukuba umuntu azisole ngokungathathi i-insurance. Maxa wambi abathengi babethwa kungawaqondi amagama athi asetyenziswe kolu shishino. Kuxa kufika intlekele apho ubani athi abambelele intloko ezisola ngokungayithatheli ingqalelo imiqathango ebhalwe phantsi.
Once that is exhausted, we've got an internal.
Yilungelo yingcaphephe i-insurance. Uthi abantu abaninzi abazinika ixesha laneleyo lokufunda ukuqulathwe sizivumelwano se-insurance. Ngenxa yoko bayothuka xa umuntu ebona iclaim yakhe ingavunywa kuba engonelisanga imiqathango yezivumelwano.
At the moment, the consumer are bombarded from in the media and from an advertising perspective. With it even if I look at the insurance, it sounds of it's a quick buy. You can do it over the internet, you can do it over the telephone, but I personally believe that's probably where the pitfall starts, is that insurance is not necessarily a quick and dirty buy. You have to go through a process.
Ngubani onokutyhola abathengi kule meko? Lemka ixesha apho umthengisi we-insurance ebehlala phantsi nawe akucacisele. Kula maxesha abantu abaninzi babona kufika umnxeba okanye umyalezo usithi thatha nantsi i-insurance. Kulapho ulo walumkisa khona abantu ukuthi akho nto igqitha ukukhangela abanolwazi olunzulu ngalomba.
Consumer don't have the luxury like we have that see the risks, and then of course we develop products for those risks. I think expert advice is important. You know, it is in some cases it is a grudge purchase. I don't necessarily want to give out money to be secure, but you have to do it for your financial stability.
Ezinye zempazamo ezikhokelela ekukhatyweni kweclaim kuquka ukufaka iclaim emva kwexesha eliqingqiweyo nelikhanganyiweyo kwisivumelwano, ukwaphula umqathango ogxininisiweyo, ukulibala ukuhlaziya iinkcukacha zesimo somthengi, ukuinshora ngaphantsi kwexabiso lempahla, ukwahlula phakathi kwemeko engakhuselwanga i-insurance nekhuselekileyo. Kuvuyisile Mdoda, Yilungelo Lakho.
Masibayo ngazo sibini kuvuyisile Mdoda usenzelelo unqakwe. Now, to further discuss our insurance cover pitfalls topic today and what you should know as a consumer, let's welcome our studio guests who are joining us in studio today. Masamkele uPeter Nkuna, yena ovela ku-office yomxazululi izingxaki eziphathelene ne-insurance, and that is i-short-term insurance ombudsman. Sinaye nomzaziya Sondiazi ovela ku-South African Insurance Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we are talking insurance, and we are talking about a topic that definitely hits home, and many consumers related nayo. So what is insurance? Let's just talk about insurance, basically, you know, because you can say, I know what insurance is, but let's come to you, Mzazia, because I believe that as an association that deals with insurances, Niayazi, or you are the ones who deal with e-wording and putting together of documentation. In Don.
Okokuqala nje sicacisa uba i-insurance inezigaba ezininzi. Yeah. i-insurance sizawuthetha ngayo namhlanje kakhulu i-insurance yexesha elifushane phecelezi short term insurance. Kune long term insurance, life policy, kune investment insurance, kune insurance funeral.
Okay.
So basically insurance awuthetha ngayo kwangoku ile short term insurance.
Short term insurance.
Exesha elifushane.
Okay. Xa siyohlula bese siqale masiyidefine ba intoni insurance. When I'm saying ndiya ku-insurance, what am I talking about?
Okay. Insurance is a promise.
Okay.
Yabeka kanjalo xa sisibeka. I-promise sisithembiso osithengayo as a consumer. Yokuba xa kwenzeke inhlekele okanye kuthe any sudden or unforeseen event enzekayo, then you'll be able to be put back to the position you were in before. Insurance is not for gain, it's not for betterment. So don't expect xa uthatha insurance uba uthi hayi mhlambe I'm looking at getting an extra mile nge-insurance. Insurance will put you back to the position you were in. So it's one of the elements abantu abazayisebenzisa xa be-responsible. That is for
Maske
responsible
sithethe ke ngale
consumers, yeah.
esithetha ngayo namhlanje, which is short-term insurance.
Correct, yeah.
What is short-term insurance and yohluke kanjani ku-long-term insurance?
Okay. I-short-term insurance le xesha elifushane ikhavara izinto zasendlini, ikhavara imoto, ikhavara izinto xa uziphatha uye emsebenzini ngamanye amaxesha, for example i-camera, i-cellphone, ikhavara izinto okutravela ngayo mhlawumbe xa elwandle uphethe i-video camera, into ezinjalo. Ikhavare futhi nento ezifana nendlu, i-structure sendlu, for example xa kuthe kube khona isichotho, hailstorm
Do we
damages.
include cell phones on short-term insurance?
Yes, we do include cell phones
Okay.
with short-term insurance as well.
Okay, all right. So, xa sithetha nge-warranty, because ndizawuhlala pha kuwe as one who comes from an association basically that deals with insurance. I-warranty, when you go to get insurance, usually there is a warranty and there is insurance. And kumaxa amaninzi siye siyiconfuse i-warranty ne-insurance. Yintoni umehluko phakathi kwento zombini?
Ndiyabulela ngalo mbuzo mhlekazi. I-warranty is something that guarantees mechanical breakdown most of the time.
Okay.
Yaloo nto leyo ithengile. Insurance is got insured events. For example, xa kuthiwe into yakho liyebiwa, okanye yonakaliswa ngamanzi, okanye there's fire damages, okanye there's any other perils, hailstorm damages, earthquakes, some of insurance covers such into ezinjalo. So i-warranty won't cover in that something that is out of the mechanical part of it.
Okay.
Most of the warranty, most of the time, ijonge nje i-mechanical aspect of that item. Yeah.
Kunyanzelekile uba ndibe ne-insurance before ndibe ne-warranty, or ngokuthenga nje by virtue of buying a product ndiyayifumana i-warranty?
I would say mhlakazi i-warranty is mainly advisable ube nayo because izawuthengiswa a large salesperson.
Kodwa andinyanzelekanga ndibe ne-insurance. Is that what you're saying?
Insurance is optional,
Okay.
but it's advisable. Very, very advisable.
Warranty is a benefit.
Exactly. Just like insurance, that you have to have it if you can afford it. Because insurance, you must know, what it's a, abantu abaninzi, they call it as a grudge, as a responsible purchase.
Responsible purchase. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Masisegowega Peter, you are not a stranger to our show. Welcome back. Sizawuthetha about some of the terms, the terminology that we find when we're taking insurance or good documentation, SABC sign. We talk about under-insurance and over-insurance. Maske sicacise, what is under-insurance?
Under-insurance basically means, remember when you insure an item, as it was stated earlier on, there's an exchange between you and the insurance company. You pay them premiums so that if a particular event happens through which you end up suffering some loss, they put you in the same position as if you had never suffered that loss in the first place.
Okay.
Now, in order for, if let's say I've lost this book, for me to be placed in the same position as if I hadn't lost it, if the value of the book is 10 rand, the insurance company would have to pay me 10 rand or give me the book of that value.
Okay.
So basically, that's where the amount of your insurance. Now, whether you have insured and paid a premium for the same value or not will determine whether you're correctly insured, whether you're under-insured or you're over-insured. If you valued the book at, say, 5 rand, and it was insured only up to 5 rand, and you paid a premium in accordance with that, you would be under-insured. If you went and said the value of the book was 15 rand when it was actually only 10, you would be over-insured, and unfortunately, you will only get the 10 rand, even though you would have been paying a premium for 15 rands worth of a book.
I think that leads us, quick question here to Landa Elayo. How do I determine the value of my household contents then? because you spoke about value, so that ningabi underinsured or overinsured, how do I determine the value of my goods?
It's very difficult to do that for the ordinary man in the street or the ordinary person in the street. There are companies and individuals who have the expertise to value certain types of items, motor evaluators, property evaluators and things like that. You could approach those people in instances where it is of the utmost importance for you to have the property correctly valued. Sometimes your broker and the insurance company themselves may be in a position to assist you in terms of determining the value. For example, in terms of motor vehicles, the values of motor vehicles are fairly easily ascertainable. There are auto dealers' guides that would be referred to, and from that you can get a market value, retail value, trade value, and so forth. So in certain instances, it's fairly easy to do that. But if, for example, you had a vintage vehicle, a vintage car, you might have to go to an expert in that regard who then has to do a proper assessment to say, this 1979 Mercedes-Benz SEL so, the value would be 1.5 million, and then there'll be a certificate issued in that regard.
Okay. Ndiyabona into yokubana because when Mzazi spoke about short-term insurance and izinto kufuneka uzikhavarishile under short-term insurance, we mentioned indlu, I mentioned ishimoto, the cell phone, your laptop, and all sorts of things. Does when it comes to getting a value or determining a value of these goods to be insured, ingaba ye-TV ne-indlu iyohluka kwa cell phone?
Well, in the sense that your experts that you may need to go to would not necessarily know values of the one from the other. You would probably have to go to a property expert to value the value, to give you the value of the house. A cell phone, probably going to a store, a cell phone store, they may be able to give you a fair value of that cell phone like that. So depending on the specific item, and a lot of times, remember, you insure it most preferably immediately upon purchase, at which point you still have the value of that item.
Of that item, yeah.
And most policies provide cover for a replacement value, which would be the same value that you'd have purchased it for.
All right. Okay. Well, if you just joined us, today we're talking about insurances, specifically short-term insurance. And more on this and more after the break. Sikwamkele kwakhona ke siyaqhubeka nencoko yethu and short-term insurances kungekudala ke sawuvula iminxeba yethu nawo ukufumana ithuba lokuthi bathe nxaxheba phaya ku-011 or 6919. Before the break, Peter, you were telling us about short-term insurance and basically being overinsured and underinsured. Sisaqhubeka ke naloo nto ukuba what happens in a case where ndihamba ke ndiyoclaima kuthiwa my goods bezi underinsured?
Normally, there's something called average in insurance.
Okay.
What then happens is they look at the proportion of the premium that you are paying in relation to the actual loss that you have suffered, and they will pay in accordance with that. Let me give an example just to clarify that. The example that I gave earlier on, where you've got a book insured for 10 rand, but its actual value is only 5 rand. In that instance, 5 rand is 50% of the full value of the book. So what will then happen is the insurance company will pay you the equal proportion, which is 50% of that value, and you will then say, let's say for argument's sake, because it's not all the time that you'll have a total loss. Let's say we are talking about a motor vehicle where the car is not completely written off, but there are just some minor damage on the vehicle. What would then happen is they will pay for 50% of that loss. If the cost of repair amount to 10,000 rand, they would pay 50% of that, and you as the insured would then have to carry the other 50%.
All right. Mzaya, let's come to you. You understand if you insure a house, that is house insurance, what's inside is automatically covered. Is this true or is it not true? Because I can see now that TV must have its own insurance, Iketile must have its own insurance. How important, or would you say for consumers when we buy into, to also to check what's inside and to ensure what's inside the goods?
That's a true misconception that most customers have in South Africa, especially in the cases where people will be dealing directly, maybe through a call center, where the call, it's a quick call, It's not everything gets explained. It's 10 minutes, because you must remember with call centers, there's a process that you need to follow. So the consultant will explain the most important elements, whereas the consumer on the other side will have a misconception of saying, okay, I've insured my house. If anything happens, I'm covered. Only to find he has just insured or she has just insured the structure, not the content. So it's very, very important to know and ask the right questions at all times. It's so unfortunate that consumer education, we are still at a low in South Africa, but we need to empower our consumers to start asking the right questions when they purchase a product.
Okay.
Because at most of the time, it's a question of, I'm buying this because I have to buy it.
All right. Talking about the right questions, when you house insure indlu yakho, why is it that natural disasters are not covered?
That's not the case.
What happens then?
It depends from company to company.
Okay.
Yeah, some companies do cover natural disasters. Some companies do cover things like earthquake. Some companies do cover things like mining operations. It's a question of, you need to know exactly as a consumer policy what's covered. Ask those questions to say, I've just taken a policy to you. In the event of a hail damage that happened, am I covered now or not? Because some of them do. It's just that it's a question of, you can't phone all the insurance companies and check but
as the insurance association, isn't that your responsibility? As zonke insurances have a certain pattern as when you're putting together documentation. There must be basic things that must be covered. Even the Tata car insurance, towing must be basic. Those things should be covered also?
You are correct, and that's exactly what we are working on. I must remember.
So you have realized it's an issue.
Yes, we have realized such things, that where insurance has been around for quite a long time. So what we're doing, for example, we're making the language, the terminology of insurance simpler. We're working on that as well. For example, a premium. People don't know what is a premium. Must tell insured, must say a consumer, a customer, all those things. And the package itself, we're working on those things as well to say, we can't pick and choose as to what is that we're insuring.
Okay.
But remember, insurance, it covers something that is sudden, unforeseen. So it's not a...
What's sudden? When you say sudden, is it something that must happen within 2 hours? I must report that in 2 hours or in 4 hours?
Sudden is something that has happened like earthquake. That has happened. Insurance won't cover you for something that you have planned that's going to happen and hope that insurance are patala. That is sudden. Unforeseen. For example, you are Kobe motor, or you drive recklessly. When you drive recklessly motor, the chances of you causing an accident and fatality are high. So that is foreseen. Insurance doesn't cover such things. It covers unforeseen and sudden events. That's why it's a responsible purchase. A person who buys insurance is a responsible person who foresee that in the event if anything happens, I must be put back to the position I was in before.
Okay, Mzaya. Let's come to you, Peter, because you're in the Ombudsman, and I know that a lot of consumers who are watching right now will disagree with some of the issues, as much as that is the basic rule. But I had an accident. They came to tow my car, but then my safety wasn't guaranteed as papers or insurance documentation. One of our viewers actually said that her car broke down, and she was with 2 children, and she had impahle ninzi. When the insurance came, they took the car and they left it there. Whereas in the documentation, it is said that if you're 100 meters away from your place of safety, we're going to cover you. Why do insurance, in a way, if for lack of a better word, we can say mislead some of the consumers, some insurances?
Well, an example that you've given for me indicates an irresponsible insurer. And I'm presuming here that, as you say, it was written in black and white that should this event happen, you would be entitled to this. And if the consumer complied with all their own obligations, there is absolutely no reason for the insurer not to do the same. So in the event that...
awubile wayo insurer
If-
and ubucinga uba bazocoverisha and they did
If you find yourself in such a situation where you were unfairly or incorrectly treated by your insurer, that is one of the instances where you would approach our office
So we come to
for
the
us to
ombudsman.
provide some form of relief. What we will then do is investigate that complaint. We'll get your representation, get the insurer's representation, and eventually when we have ascertained the facts, we'll then look at what it is that you were entitled to and consider whether or not the insurer complied with their own obligations. And if we find that they haven't, whatever corrective measures would be appropriate in that instance would be recommended for the insurer to put into place so that you are put in the place you should have been put into.
Mzazi ndiyabona bengathi ufuna.
Yeah. Just to add on that,
Okay.
Spiwen, for example, on the motor side section, that's where the problems is very cool most of the time.
Okay.
For example, you've insured your car. There comes you have a claim, only to find our car hire.
Yes.
People take it for granted that car hire it comes standard. It doesn't come standard. Those are the things that you need.
We need to check.
Yeah,
We need to check.
that's
Okay. Let's just quickly take Zanele, who's calling us from North Riding. Zanele? Zanele?
Hello.
Hi,
Yebo.
Zanele. Kunjani?
Ndiyaphila unjani?
Siyaphila nathi akhonto.
Ndiyaphila. About 2 months ago, my car, remote yemoto,
Okay.
and then they took everything, and it was insured. But when I went to my insurance, your claimer, they told me because there was no sign of any false entry, and they can't pay me. And the ombudsman is aware of that scam of Irma Jabers, and we should be aware as consumers that the cars are jammed all the time. So therefore, we are responsible. So I wanted to know, is it fair to be treated like that? Knowing that the stuff that you have in your car is insured. But they just
You
say
need to prove it in a way.
But they're not going to pay because
Okay.
you should be aware. You should
Okay.
be wary when as a client.
All right, Sebulela kakhulu Zanele. We're going to answer your question, but before we do that, we're going to go for a quick ad break. After the break, we're going to answer your question. Also, ukubufuna ukuthabatha inxaxheba kwingxoxo yethu namhlanje, you can go to our Facebook page and write at Yilungelo Lakho. Give us all that, all your questions or your queries, or perhaps share your experience with us. But all of that after this ad break. Welcome back. You're watching Yilungelo Lakho. Today you are talking short-term insurance. And in order to participate in our discussion today, you can call us on 011-714-6918 or 6919. Our SMS line is 33726. Now, gentlemen, before the break we had, Zanele was calling us from North Riding. Zanele says you had her story. I don't need to repeat it. What happened in that case? Isn't she entitled to automatic covering? Let's come to you, Peter.
You see, it's very important to always remember, we've been discussing this for a while and saying that the insurance policy is a contract between you and the insurance company. The terms and conditions of cover will be clearly provided for in your contract, in the policy book. And a lot of times, the insurers do have a provision in their policies wherein they will say, if there are no signs of forced or violent entry into the house or even the car, we will not pay. And the reason for that is sometimes we as consumers, ordinary people, leave our doors open, or I invite guests that may be shady and then expose myself to those risks which the insurer would not necessarily have control over. And that is why they put those provisions in. For example, in Zanele's particular case,
Yes.
She may feel she locked. We don't know. There are instances where we think we have locked, and you get there, you check your car, it's not locked, but nothing has been stolen, and you realize it must mean that I failed to lock it. I think most people would have
But then
gone
as
through
insurances, how
things
do you
like that.
prove? As an insurance, how do you prove that as a consumer, I was negligent? Or how do I know if the insurance, because in many cases, most consumers will tell you this, that they feel cheated by insurances. They're entitled to have the car towed and be given a replacement car, a temporal car, but that's not done. Because the insurance says we can't prove, you didn't go according to our law or regulations.
This is why we have shows like this, and we try to go around speaking to consumers and at all times highlight those potential pitfalls so that people can have the knowledge and find ways to guard against unnecessary losses. For example, when it comes to remote jamming, one thing that everybody will tell you about is is make sure that the door is actually locked before you walk away. Don't just press and walk and think because I think I had the sound or whatever, it means it is locked. And by simply doing that, it's not going to take 2 extra seconds to just pull the handle to make sure that it's locked, or even looking at the door to see that the knob goes down before you walk away. So those are some of the precautions that we as consumers could just put into place to ensure that we don't
But
suffer
what happens in a
losses.
case where the consumer says, I'm sure and I'm certain that I was hijacked, they didn't break the window, but they opened the car and they took whatever they took inside. There is no proof of forced entry there. Then what happens to the claim? Does it go as default?
Look, because the provision of the policy would be saying that if there is no sign, it obviously would favor the insurer. But I know of some insurers who are a little bit more flexible in that regard, where they will say, look, if, let's say, it's in a shopping center or shopping complex where there are surveillance cameras, if we can find the footage which shows that there was indeed a loss, we will still put you in the place where you didn't, as if you didn't suffer that loss.
Okay, I see you want to add something, Zaya.
Yeah, just to add pure there as well. You must remember, hijacking is part of the insured event as well. Mugging is part of the insured event. So there are processes that people need to remember and follow. For example, if you have been hijacked, one thing you need to do is to go to the police and report the case. That is evidence that something has happened. The insurance, most of the time, 90%, they look into your case and entertain that. Mugging, say beach, you had your camera, they just, you go to the police, you report a loss to the police. So all those elements, they tend to assist in the investigation process. So it's a question of people, as I'm saying, I'm going to say this, maybe it's going to be my middle name, responsibility.
Responsibility.
You need to be
Let's just be
responsible.
responsible and take a caller as well, talking about responsibility. We've got Bulelani who's calling us from East London. Bulelani?
Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Good, thank you. Uthini umbuzo wakho bhuti?
Ingxaki yam insurance yam yemoto ndiyena involve ka accident ndabaxelela bayithatha imoto bayisa kuloo garage yabo. Now iproblem eyenzekayo i-access yayi-2,000 rand, so ndabathi mandibhatale more money so that izokwazi ukuthobeka that access. Ndayibhatala on to fine xa sengoku ufuna ndibhatale this access kuthiwa mandibhatale 40,000 instead of that 1,000 bebetshayisa wehla ngayo.
Kuthi 40,000 yantoni bhuti? Is it still ukwehlisa access?
Hello?
Bulelani, i-40,000 lena yantoni? Is it imali yokwehlisa access
Hello,
now?
sir.
Yes, can you hear me? Bulelani? I think we've lost Bulelani. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Bulelani, continue with your story. Okay,
Hello?
I think Bulelani's line really has a problem. But I think if I get the nutshell of what he was trying to say, it's this excess money, because most consumers will tell you that they have a problem with that. And I think, Peter, you need to answer that question.
Yeah.
What happens there?
This is actually one of the most common complaints we get in our office. It appears that sometimes at sales stage, when people are purchasing the insurance product, there might be miscommunication, or perhaps people ignore some of the terms and conditions of cover. What seems to happen a lot of times is that people are excited by the fact that they are paying a lower premium.
Okay.
And they don't pay attention to all the other things like excesses. And you may find that you had a policy with one insurance company where, let's say for argument's sake, you're paying a premium of 1,000 rand and you felt it was too much. Then you start shopping around. You find somebody that comes and says, I'll give the same cover to you for 300 rand. But you don't pay attention as to what are the differences. And sometimes you find that where it comes to a claim, this first insurer that you had a standard excess of 1,000 rand, irrespective of the amount of loss, etc. It's always 1,000 rand that you'd pay. This one that's giving you a lower premium, you find that there are 5 or 6 extra excesses that you have to pay.
Okay.
They look at your age or the age of the driver, the time of the day. Usually late at night you pay extra. They look at how long you've held your license, whether it's a code 10 or a code 8, things like that. And for everyone where you don't quite do things the way they would like, there's some kind of a penalty, additional excess that is added for your claim. And you suddenly have a loss where for a claim of 50,000 rand, you find that the whole 25 has to be carried by you, and the
Carried
insurance
by you.
company only covers
Okay,
half of it.
now here's a scenario I'm going to paint. I've got a 200,000 valued car. I purchased it at 200,000 rands. In 2 years or in a year's time, it goes down to 150,000 rands. I covered it because it was a 200,000 rands car. Do I need to change that, or do I still need to continue covering it for 200,000?
Normally, the responsibility is that of the insurer. But as Mzaya will confirm, part of
But do insurances remind consumers? Do they call you and say the car that you bought and that you've covered, you covered it was 250,000, now it is 50,000 rands. We're going to decrease your percentage.
No, they don't. Some of
But
them,
whose responsibility is
some of
that?
them do it automatically.
Okay.
But most policies that I've come across will always put the responsibility on the consumer. So it is always advisable for you as the consumer to also be mindful of that and keep on tracking and adjusting it accordingly. And if you are using a broker, your broker should be helpful.
Should be
in
able
that
to inform you.
regard.
Mzaya?
Yeah. Just to add on that, starting with the element excess consumers need to remember insurance. There's no a pool of money sitting somewhere and ready to be tampered to tap on it. Insurance is premiums of all the consumers who are paying.
Yes.
So excess is one way of saying when we are claiming go, and all the others haven't claimed as yet. So it's an act of passing a responsibility back to you as well to say, now that help out as well. That's how excess comes in. It's not a penalty to say we are penalized because I've been paying for 3 years. What is happening now? No, it doesn't work like that.
But isn't belief that if I've been paying for the past 5 years, and I've been covering Indlu Yam, when something happens in Glandlu, that money that I've been paying to you should cover the damages. So what happens now after 5 years, Glandlu coverage, and then the insurance tells me, no, we can't cover you?
Insurance will always cover you as long as you have explained all the material facts, the property, all the time.
Okay. Oh, well, let's take another caller. We've got Bulelo who's calling us from Port Elizabeth. Hello.
Hello, Put.
Hello, Siswam.
Hello, Put. Ndicela ubuza udaba wambenzi bethe ifridge insurance abadala insurance ngoba abantu bayomrate le mali. So yena uyipension and then wabhadala 5,600 ngoxa se find out ndijonga le fridge yakhe i-second hand fridge but kwi-insurance ndathi kuye makangayibhatali la fridge because of imali ayibhatala ininzi for iba i-second hand fridge bekwi-insurance and then abantu izolo baze bazofuna
Hello.
awukwazi uthatha ifridge ngoba kaloku yi-second hand fridge le bathi ikwi-insurance ndathi ewe ndayeva i-insurance but abakwazi uyithatha so bathi ngoku masiye phaa kulaa venkile so ndifuna ngoku into kwi-second hand iyakwazi uba ku-insurance na.
Okay. Umzaya uza kuphendula quickly. Just stay on the line.
Okay.
Can you talk to Bulelo?
Yes, Sisbulela, Sivela now, Siswam. It's so unfortunate that we don't know the other side of the story as to if fridge lena incha okanye what kind of
yena uthathe as a new fridge but when they deliver the fridge is a second hand fridge.
But it was already insured.
I think my problem is that it was the selling itself was not correct because the fridge enter and the insurance it's mainly what we call credit insurance.
Credit insurance.
Yeah, credit insurance. If anything happens,
it seems like I've lost Bulelo, but she'll be able to just continue.
Yeah, if anything happens to Utatoba or Bulelwa in the event there's a retrenchment or there's death, then that fridge can be automatically covered by that insurance.
But then in this case, she says that when they went to claim to the insurance, they said, no, that we don't cover second-hand goods. Is that so?
That's exactly what I'm saying. There was a miscommunication between.
So what can she do? She should go back to where she bought it?
I think the best way is just to establish, get money numbers there too, as numbers, then we can take it from there and decide and channel it to the proper channels, because we are not sure whether was it a sales thing or was it a miscommunication. So she rather have our numbers us contacted, then we take it from there.
Peter, but isn't that a responsibility of insurance to check before they cover something, to recheck if it's worth covering also? It goes back to what we spoke about earlier, to determine the value of these goods. So if it's covered and it's already covered, they took it in, but then when I'm going to claim, they say, no, that was second-hand insurance. Isn't that cheating in a way?
Look, I would be reluctant to respond to that because for me, just the scenario that has been painted looks a bit odd. And I suspect very strongly that something somewhere, there was miscommunication. Somebody may have sold things they shouldn't have sold. And it could have been the salesperson, it could have been the purchaser, it could have been the insurer even, you know, we wouldn't know, and it makes sense that that should be looked into.
Okay, well, we have to now take our commercial break and we'll continue with our discussion after this break. Remember that you can go to our Facebook page and put your messages, you'll be able to take them and read them and be able to answer them right here in studio after this break. Sikwamkela kwakhona ke mbukeli sisanqokela ngemigibe insurances sikucebisa kufuneka uqaphele xa uthatha ipolicy, and that is insurances. Ukuthabatha inxaxheba ke it's 01171466918 or 6919. Let's quickly take some of your Facebook messages that you've sent us. We've got Sisa yena usisa uthi this is legal tsotsism. As far as you know, they don't translate the T's and C's by isiZulu or Xhosa or any other African languages, but they still also like you to be their client. And then you've got Lulu Mafaku, who says, some of us are Sfundanga, and most of the time, amapolisi abhalwa English. And then you've got George Vongani Wagabatonsi, who says, my advice to anyone who wants to take an insurance policy is this: do not sign any document without fully understanding the terms and conditions of the policy. Make sure you also get advice from other people near you before you take your decision. Sisa, the first one, when a poll, that consumer says, and you find that it's a common trend amongst many consumers, you just take because you want to be covered, but you don't understand the T's and C's. So I thought of a term that we used in the previous insert, and that was access. You spoke a lot about access. What is that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, particularly because I was personally feeling we may have glossed over it to the extent that some people may not even understand and in fact have incorrect impressions about it. And access is basically the insured's own contribution to the claim, or otherwise known as your self-insured portion.
Okay.
Some people also refer to it as the first amount payable. Basically, for every claim that you put in, there would be a contribution that you make towards the loss. And the reason why that is there, it's mainly to manage claims, so that, as Mzaya was saying earlier on, you don't find people every now and again claiming, sometimes even for unnecessary things. A screw is loose on my spectacles and I want to put in a claim for something like that, which is something that I could have just walked to some spectacle shop and they would just put it in properly and things like that. That is why we have that. And for as long as you have that provision in your policy that there is an excess applicable, you then have to pay that amount.
But there's a term that is very popular when you take insurance, that is the insurance replacement value. What is that?
The replacement value is simply, like we said earlier on, if you have suffered a loss, you must be put in the same place as if, or same position as if you never suffered the loss in the first place. And that would be the replacement value. If you had a vehicle, like you said earlier on, that you purchased for 200,000, putting you in the same place, if that vehicle had to be stolen from you, would mean they must either give you 200,000 or give you an alternative vehicle of the same value. And then you would be in the same position that you would have been had you not suffered that loss.
All right, yes, Mzaya?
Yeah, and to add on Peter's point, it's consumers need to remember insurance can either replace the item that is stolen, put you back to the position. They can pay you in the form of cash, or they can even repair the same item. So some people have got this conception to say, I've got insurance, I'm going to score.
It is sorted.
Yeah, it's not a scoring point. It's putting you back to the position that you were in before.
Okay. Maskesive phaya ku Mr. Ngubane who's calling us from KZN. Hello.
Yebo sawona.
Yebo baba kunjani?
Hayi sikhona
Asikhona nathi akhona.
Yeah, hayi manje ngibona lapho nixoxa ngene kuze ngendaba yomshwalense. Kunomshwalense mina engawufakela lana ngo 120 umshwarensi wakawarranty manje mose bangijoyinisa imoto baphinde bangijoyinisa nengane zami zonke wathiwa mangabe nginenkinga inkinga mangabe nginenkinga emotini bese ngibafonele bazongilungisela yonke into bese bengijoyinisa nanokuthi mangigula ngiwesibhedlela bazongikhokhela emveni kwaloko mase ngigula ngaye esibhedlela ngahlala inyanga yonke mase ngibuya ngisengibafonele ngibatshela ngihlala inyanga yonke esibhedlela sebeyaphika manje bathi bona hayi azange bangijoyinisele lokho manje.
But ikhona phaya ku documentation yakho kula contract ubuyisayinile ikhona lonto wani ku contract okanye wawufonelwe tata?
Angangifonelwe mina.
Wawufonelwe? Okay, khawuhlala emnxebeni ngesakwazi basami ukuba siphendule umbuzo wakho shortly.
Oh.
Okay. And here's another case. Mzaya, I think you want to take this one, but abantu abathengisela insurances over the phone. Uthini ngabo because nansi case ke ngoku unikwa yonke into lekwathi uzawucoverishelwa and then xa sekufuneka ngoyo claim akuthiwa hayi asinayo thina lonto.
Yeah, siphinde siphiwe si velane no babungobani. I think what could have happened here it's a miscommunication again because by the sound of what he's telling us now, he was sold either it's a warranty or mechanical insurance legal cover imoto in the event of imoto yamoshela
naye xa isesibhedlela bhatala.
That is credit life insurance in the event ba
Unemehluko
uyasweleka
ke
okanye
phakathi.
retrenchment. So those are the two policies. Zipolicies ezimbini ezingambelana.
Credit life insurance nantoni?
The mechanical breakdown okanye warranty insurance like
Okay.
tengiselwe yona. So I think there was a miscommunication in terms of ukuthi, for example ndiyacinga uthi ubekese sibhedlela there might be a waiting period which is mhlambe 3 months. Waiting period, if anything happens within the waiting period, you are not covered, unfortunately. So those are the elements that you need to consider as consumers. In this case, it's just that we don't have the actual document by 18 exactly. And those are the most and pivotal points that consumers need to consider.
All right. Okay, Maskesibamba Apoge. Well, we have to take our last break. We continue with our discussion. We're talking short-term insurances and policies and all that you need to know. So, after this, we continue and to close it. Welcome back to our final segment. If you've just joined us, it's Yilungelo Lakho, and today we're talking short-term insurances. Now, gentlemen, before the break, we had Ubaba who was calling us from KZN, and he did relay his story, or we had another call afterwards. But you were still talking when Mzaya about some of the things you need to look out for, and some of conceptions of Banaso for start insurance.
Yeah, thank you, Spear. I think just to reiterate, it's very, very important that mhlambe masibeke upfront ucace. When uncertain, when not sure, don't sign.
When you're not sure, don't sign.
Yeah.
One of the messages said there in Dogmana, you are sold over because over the phone.
Yeah.
They sell the insurance. Now, in that case where they do not cover, can you go and ask for the recordings, for the transcripts, and say, you did say this, and I need proof because I'm sure. Can you answer that, Peter?
That's correct, Spiwa. Most of the complaints where we find there's a dispute between the insurer and the complainant or the insured, saying he said, she said, we ask for recordings of the specific discussions, and through that we are able to ascertain the truth, and from that we will know which direction the matter should go.
I see we've got such quite an interesting message from one of our viewers who says, what happens then in a case where I insure my car and over 5 years nothing happens, no damage happens, no accident happens? Do I get money back? Do you guys give me money back? Because that's the popular notion that's out there, that if nothing happens for the duration that I'm supposed to be covering the good, then it's off money man.
I presume that you refers to the insurance companies. We are not part of them. But to answer the question, I think this is actually a very basic question which addresses a lot of misconceptions around insurance. And I'm going to take it back. It's
just
very
quickly,
basic.
let's just round it up.
Short-term insurance. Normally, month to month, first of the month, end of the month, you pay a premium for that specific period.
Okay.
That's the first thing to remember. If you have not suffered a loss in that period, that's the end of the story. You pay for the next month. Main other issue to remember is when you purchase insurance, you are transferring risk from yourself to the insurer. In the event that the loss occurs, the insurer pays up.
Okay.
If the event doesn't happen, you're not entitled to anything, unfortunately.
Well, gentlemen, because of time, let's just quickly, Klasivalayo Sitini Kumtu, who's watching right now, either somebody who's considering taking insurance, especially short-term insurance, what are your last words? Or Nikabatobasanitin? Mzaya?
I think the crux of it
Just
is,
quickly.
very important.
What to look out for?
Yeah. Know what you're buying
Okay.
first. When not sure, please don't put pen into paper.
Okay.
Refer, ask around about what are you buying. Don't just buy because I have to buy, because we tell you more.
Check the fine print.
Check the fine print at all times.
Okay. Peter?
I'll put it down to two things. Firstly, understand your own risk profile. What is it that you would not want to suffer as a loss and make provision for it? If you don't know enough, make use of the services of people who know better. Brokers and people like that will be very helpful in making you understand the insurance products, and to do that if you don't understand. Try your own way, you might burn your fingers.
Okay, well, unfortunately, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us once again. It was a good one. Let me thank our studio guests and for the time that they spent with us. Thank you to you also for watching us right there at home, and to our crew that puts together this fantastic production. From me, Sipio Nzawumbi. Till next time, God bless and be good. Keep watching our repeats at 12 every Monday. Bye.